Welcome to Everyday Linux User. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to install and set up antiX Linux. So, antiX Linux is designed to run as a live USB, so you can carry that USB everywhere, and it works well on older hardware. So, if you've got a 32-bit machine, even, or you've got an old machine, this will work for you. That's what it's designed for. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to web browser. And in that web browser, we're going to find antiX. And then we're going to go to this download link. And you will see antiX has 4 versions available. You've got the full version that comes up with lots of window managers and the LibreOffice suite installed, and many other applications. You've got the base, which is for window managers without LibreOffice. You get the core, which is no GUI environments at all, but you do get wireless sorted out so you can install what you want. And then you've got antiX Net, so enough to get you a wide internet connection, but it's up to you to build the rest. There's also a sysv init version and a runit version. The one I'm going to use is the sysv init version, and you choose depending on whether you're using a 32-bit machine or a 64-bit machine. So in my case, I'm using a 64-bit machine, so I'm going to hit this download button here, and it comes to the SourceForge page. Now sometimes this can get stuck, so if you do get that situation, press F5 and it will then do it the next time. But you can see for me it's now working, so that's that. If we go back to the antiX page, when it comes to creating the bootable USB drive from Windows, it recommends using Rufus, and for Linux it recommends using a live USB maker. Now, today's video is as if you're using Windows. I'll do another video from Linux point of view. It'll be too long if I try and do it both in the same video. So what you need to do is you need to click this link here, which takes you to Rufus. You can't use Etcher, well, you can use Etcher for this, but then you don't get the persistence to the USB. Now, what persistence is you can install programs so antiX will run as a live USB, like Ubuntu's live USB, and when you install stuff to that, it doesn't retain when you reboot, but persistence does retain the information. So if you install Chrome, it would then keep Chrome beyond the reboot stage. So that's what persistence means, which is why you need to use Rufus and not something like Etcher, because Etcher creates a read-only file system. Look here, you've got the download section, and you've got Windows, a portable Windows, standard, and then ARM64. So what you need to do is click on the Windows link, close the advert that pops up, and you'll see that Rufus is downloaded in the bottom left corner. Now I'm going to cancel that because I've downloaded them both before, but in your case you'll need to wait for those to download. When they have downloaded, open up a file explorer, go to your downloads folder, and you'll see I've now got 2 versions of each. I actually downloaded the Runit version as well, so what I'm going to do is I am going to delete that one out because I've already got Rufus here, and you can see that's the one I'm going to use. That's the sysv init version. So what you do now is you double click on this Rufus, you select yes. You need your USB drive inserted before running Rufus. And you can see it's picked up my USB drive because I've got no label on it. It's completely formatted. Yeah, you need to use a USB drive that you don't need the information on. So if you've got anything on that USB drive you want to keep, you need to copy it off somewhere else because Rufus will reformat the entire drive. Now what you want to do next is you want to leave that as disk or ISO image. Select here, and then you click on the antiX that you downloaded. So if you chose the sysvinit version, it's this one. If you chose the runit version, it's this one. For most people, it doesn't matter which one you download. Now, you don't want to set the persistence at this stage. You want to let antiX create the persistence for you. The boot record, you can get away with leaving it as MBR, but that's not a problem. Don't need to change that to GPT. leave the file system as FAT32. You can create the volume label as you want. I'm leaving it as it is, and everything else you can just leave as default, and then just click the start button. A message will appear and it will ask you, do you want to write in ISO mode or DD mode? You need to write in ISO mode if you want persistence. DD mode will create a read-only USB drive, which means you can't then store any installed applications within antiX to the live USB. So choose to write in ISO mode and then click OK. Another message will appear telling you all the data will be wiped, as I mentioned earlier. If you're happy to continue, click OK. And then the process will start. It will delete the partitions and then it will format, create the file system. And this can take some time. So I'm going to skip this bit, but basically you just wait for that green bar to finish. So you can see now that the process is finished. So I've got a bootable USB drive. So now what we need to do is reboot your computer with the USB drive in. And before the computer boots, press the relevant function key on your keyboard to bring up the boot menu, and then choose your USB drive from the boot menu. Now the button that you need to press for the boot menu to appear differs from manufacturer to manufacturer. If you're not sure, go onto Google, search name of the manufacturer, say HP, and then say which function key for bringing up the boot menu, and it will tell you. Now you can see my boot menu has appeared, so what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the SanDisk Cruiser. I ended up installing it to that rather than my Pony drive. But you can see the antiX grub menu appears. So there's some options you want to choose here. So first off, let's choose our language. So go into there, click the language, then choose which language you want to use, in this case English, but I want GB English, not American English. And then it automatically sets the time zone as well. So I can now go back to the main menu. And then we'll want to go to advanced options. And you want to, most people will want to change this from legacy kernel to the modern kernel. And I noticed when I was on the legacy kernel, it doesn't pick up the resolution of the screen properly. So the modern kernel is better for most people. Only use the older kernel if it doesn't work for you. Go to desktop options, and then that enables you to choose which desktop you want to use as your default. So I'm going to choose the Vox Ice Window Manager. And then you've got the persistent option. Select that, and then you can choose whether to persist all, just persist root, persist static. So I'm going to persist all. And then we have boot options. Mainly you probably want to leave this alone. So you can hit escape to go back. Failsafe options, console options. You can disable the grub theme, and then you've got save options. That enables you to save the grub menu and the GFX and grub menu. I'm going to choose both. And then you're going back to the main menu. And now you can click the top option. And what this means is the grub settings I've just changed will persist. Right, so now a message appears asking about creating persistence, and it gives choice of automatically, custom, or quit. I'm going to choose automatically. And then it will create my persistence drive. This will take a little bit of time, so you can take a little break. As you can see, it does take several minutes to do this. Just be patient. I am using an 8 gig drive for this, which really isn't big enough. You're better off using 1632 gig or bigger, larger. It may now ask for the home persistence file. Again, press 1 for automatic. And again, it will take a few minutes to do this. So now we have a message, create a live USB swap file, yes or no. I'm going to say no. Now, depending on how old your hardware is depends how you answer this question. In my case, my hardware is pretty decent, so I don't really need a swap file. If you're using an older computer, you might want to leave the default as yes. So I'm going to say no, but it's up to you whether you create a swap file or not. Now it's asking me to enter a root password. So create whatever password you want to and repeat it. And the default password is demo and the user account is demo. But it's asking for a password for the demo account. You can create another user account later on if you want to. So when you log in, it'll be demo and whatever password you entered there. A message will appear. It says it looks like root persistent was just enabled. Please set the save mode for root persistent. You will only have to do this once. You can change your choice later with persist config. So press S to continue. And then it says automatic, semi-automatic, manual, and quit. The default is semi-automatic, which means when you exit your computer and you reboot or try and shut down, it will ask you to save your session to your USB drive. So I recommend that option. You can also save intermittently during the process as well. You don't have to wait until reboot. So when you first boot up, you'll see that the RAM usage is actually quite low. It actually starts about 230 megabytes. It gradually increases if you're recording video like I am. So the first thing you'll want to do is connect to the internet. So you've got this control center here. So go to there, and this basically manages everything. So if you click down a network, quite often this screen will appear the very first time you run anyway, and it will default to this tab, and then you can just choose your network. And if you click on connect there, it'll ask for a passphrase. Now it's worth noting that if I type the passphrase, it does it in so it's visible. So you might want to click this button here, and then it doesn't show the passphrase at all. Clicking OK will then connect you to your network. So if we now go for hardware devices, you'll see there's this print settings here. If I click on that and click connect, it says there's a failed to connect. But what you want to do is you want to go to software, package installer, type in your password, and then if you go down to printing, you can install the cups interface if you haven't already. So click and install there. And what this does is open another window here. And once it's finished, it asks, do you want to exit the package installer? Now, hopefully at this point, you can go back down to your hardware and click on print settings, and it'll connect. But you'll see when I installed it, it showed an error reloading the cups. One thing you want to know with antiX as well is about the persistence. So you want to go to this antiX. Every so often hit the save persistence changes. Also, when you reboot, it'll ask you to persist. So if I click save persistence changes now, and it'll say, shall we begin? And I click yes, it'll check if there's enough space, and it'll then you can just click yes, and it'll start persistent changes. So any applications you install or any files you create will then be written to the USB drive. Up until that point, they were all in memory. So there is always a risk that if you've created a document, that it will disappear should something happen whilst, i.e., your USB drive becomes detached, etc. So you can see that's now saved. If I reboot it, it would do the same thing. Now, in my case, I've got a HP printer, so what I'm actually going to do is just go for this HP lip toolbox and then set up device. I'm going to go for this network Ethernet there. There are advanced options as well. I'm going to try this first. Quite often this doesn't work. And it says you can't detect any printers in the network. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click back there. I'm going to go from manual and I'm going to type in the IP address of my printer. Click next, and then you can see it's found my HP Office Jet Direct. And click next, and then click add printer. So what you'll find with antiX is setting things like printers up. Even then it's come back and said it can't find a printer. So setting things up doesn't always work as seamlessly as it would for Ubuntu or Mint or one of the other distributions. And indeed, this CUPS web interface seems to be a bit of a problem as well. So yeah, had problems with the printer there. And you can see this has died, and so it's asking to kill it. The next thing we'll look at is Bluetooth. And there is this app select thing here. It's worth noting if you go to the control center and we go to our network and we go into this conman thing, under status, you'll see Bluetooth is off. So I can click that and it becomes on. So now I should be able to go and search for Bluetooth. And you see I've got all these things here. Now I've noticed that if I go for Bluetooth Manager, well, we've got Bluetooth adapters. So you right click and run program. So you can see that's popped up. Shall Bluetooth get automatically enabled? Yes. Bluetooth Manager, run the program. It says Manager's not working. But if I do Bluetooth Transfer and run program, so if I've got a file that I want to send somewhere, so I'm going to select this and click select. Now it's looking for devices to connect to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my phone as a Bluetooth device. So as you can see, that's not actually finding anything. Incidentally, if I do sudo rf kill, you can see my Bluetooth is unblocked, as is my wireless. And it's just failing to find anything here. So hardware support for antiX. I have got this working on another USB drive, so it's a bit hit and miss. Same with the printing. So let's move on now then to something else. We'll move on to software installation. Well, let's start off with the what's already installed. So there's a hell of a lot of stuff already installed. So we've got this Notepad style application here. Got a calculator, LeafPad. We've got DOSBox Emulator and Mahjong as games. You've got a LibreOffice packages installed. We select that during the install. Screenshot tool, graphic editor. Under internet, we've got Firefox, we've got Transmission, which is a BitTorrent client, we've got Claws Mail. That's rubbish, by the way. I've never liked Claws Mail. Multimedia, we've got MPV player, and got a YouTube video player, got SMTube. Under Office, we've got LibreOffice, and then we've got this Preferences here. And then under Program, you've got Genie. So that's what you've got to start with. So if I go for Firefox, something I noticed previously is quite slow going. So I'm going to type youtube.com, everyday Linux user. I mean, it's not horrendously slow, but it's a little bit slow. Something I've noticed with antiX after playing with it for a while is sometimes things don't, they suddenly just stop working. It's like I had Chrome installed and it was working fine, and then suddenly it just lagged and wouldn't work. And I had the same with Firefox and other browsers. But if you want to install other applications, you can go to the Control Center, as I've shown previously, go to Software, Package Installer, and then you've got all these categories. So under browsers, you've got all these choices of browser here. So if you want Chrome, you can install Chrome. And you can see it opens another one of these windows and it says, do you want to continue? Yes, you do. And away you go. I'm not going to cancel that. Whilst we're here, I'll show you some other things. Under games, you have got Steam available to you. And under multimedia, under audio, Spotify is available. So common applications are therefore all available. So antiX is good for installing software. Under development, you've got VS Code if you want to do development. So even though you're using an older PC, you might find that you have common applications available to you. So if I go to antiX now and I can go to my internet folder, incidentally, you don't have to keep going down here to the menu. You can just right click and then the same menu appears. Choose Chrome there. I can make it my default. And you'll see it's actually very quick indeed. And you wouldn't necessarily expect it from Chrome because it's supposed to be this big monolith of a browser, but it's actually very, very good when it comes to performance. So yes, I recommend Chrome over Firefox on antiX. So there's more things you can do from this control center. So you can choose your wallpaper. So select a picture, and there's a number of different ones here that you can choose. So pylons is, I believe, the default. Wow, that's quite bright, as is that. But this is quite nice, this one. Okay, so that's wallpaper. You can customize your look and feel. So yeah, you can choose different themes. Under system, choose what happens at startup. You can edit config files, set the date and time. Network we've already seen. Shares, you can do file sharing. Set your screen resolution. As you can see, it's found my default screen resolution. That's the importance of choosing the right kernel at the setup stage. So you can. This is where you can edit your bootloader and set up persistence if you haven't already done it at the boot stage. I recommend doing it at the boot stage rather than here, to be honest with you. Under disks, you can actually install antiX. That's something for a different tutorial. You can make another live USB. You can partition drives. On the hardware, we've already seen print settings, but what I wanted to show you was the sound card chooser, and it's default into that. But if your sound's not working, you can change your sound there. Would you like to test it? Yes. And then you can adjust the sound using the mixers here. Under drivers, if you've got an NVIDIA card, you can install NVIDIA drivers. And indeed, any other drivers should appear here, I believe. And then under maintenance, you can do boot repairs. You can add new users. So by default, your username is demo, but you can add other ones in. So there's currently 2 users, root and demo, but you can add a new one in if you so choose. So when it comes to desktops, you can choose other desktop environments. Well, window managers, desktop combinations. So the default one is ROX and IceWM. So IceWM is the window manager. Window managers deal with, for instance, if I open LeafPad, it deals with how the window is presented, how it moves around, etc. ROX is the desktop manager and deals with drag and drop and things like that. So by default, we have ROX and IceWM, but you can switch to ROX and Fluxbox, and then you get a different panel at the bottom and a slightly different way of working, as you can see there. And you can see the default wallpaper went back to the pylons for that, and you'll see the menu has changed. So I can go back and I can choose ZZZ Fluxbox, and that's a different window manager. And then I can go for minimal Fluxbox. By default, you're not really going to see too much changes. And then you've got ROX Ice, WM, ZZZ Ice, WM, IWM, minimal IWM, and they've got this thing called JWM, which is Joe's Window Manager. So that is this. And this is fairly old school looking. In each case, right-clicking on the desktop brings up the menu, so you can easily switch back and forth between each one. So I'm going to go back to the Vox IWM. And we're back to where we were before. So a few more of the features. So apps have a tendency to die on you. So let's choose one of these applications. Under multimedia, we've got SM Tube. That's sort of like a video app. So you can watch different videos. But say that was misbehaving, I can choose App Killer, and that's basically X Kill, and I can just click that and gone. So let's summarize antiX. It's perfect for a live USB situation. It means you can carry an operating system around on a pen drive. You stick it on your keychain, and wherever you go, you can use that operating system. It's not perfect for the everyday Linux user as a one-off install. There are problems you're going to hit. You've seen I've hit problems with some of the hardware settings, and whilst I can fix them, if you're a new user to Linux, you might find that more challenging than you want it to be. If you want to do yourself a favor in that case, MX Linux might be a better choice for you. It's a very similar thing. It's actually built by the same people, but it's a smaller learning curve than antiX. antiX comes into its own when you're using older hardware, and it's also built for this live USB experience. So where I recommend antiX would be older hardware or as a live USB, perhaps. But it's not going to be for everyone. It's up to you. It's worth giving it a go. You can put it on a USB drive. You can play with it. You can play with persistence. As long as you don't hit that install button to install it to a hard drive somewhere, you're not going to break anything. The worst thing you can do is mess up the USB drive in terms of antiX on the USB drive. You can always reformat the USB drive at a later point in time. So it's worth checking out. It's worth giving it a go. It is a time stealer. I've spent many hours investigating how it works, how to set things up, and I have got the printer and Bluetooth working on another USB drive. But whilst using this one as part of the install demo, I haven't got it to work on this USB drive. And that is really the end of the video. antiX is a decent thing to play with. I'm not sure it's not really something I'd install as my main operating system unless I had really old hardware. What I do like before I go is the memory usage is tiny. So window managers are the past and the future. Using IWM is great. It stays out of the way. Everything runs really quick. You can see how responsive it is. We all use things like GNOME and KDE and really fancy desktops with their desktop effects. But if you want to get your work done, you can't be a window manager like this. And that is the end of the video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Linux User.